This happened a few years ago. I was 32 and really needed a break from work. I decided to go camping with some friends deep in a forest. It was far away from the noise of the city. I wasn't an expert, but I could set up a tent and start a fire. Everything felt normal at first. We set up camp by a calm lake, surrounded by tall trees. I remember thinking how peaceful it all was. The first night was okay. We cooked some food and sat around the campfire. The stars twinkled above us. Sitting there felt great until I noticed something flickering in the bushes. I thought it was my phone. I checked, but my screen was dim. I looked at my friends. They were all chatting and laughing. I shrugged it off. Maybe it was just my eyes playing tricks. The next couple of days I kept seeing that light. It wasn't constant. It came and went. I started hearing strange noises too. At first, just rustling in the bushes, but at night there were whispers that seemed to float in the air. I asked my friends, but they laughed. They said it was just the wind or maybe animals. I wasn't so sure. I felt silly for being scared. One night while lying in my tent, I heard a loud bang. My heart raced. I peeked outside, but the campsite was quiet. The air was still. I glanced at the campfire. It was barely burning. I thought about waking my friends, but I hesitated. What if I was just being paranoid? On the last night, things really changed. We were sitting together, drinking and talking. But my friends started to look dazed. They blinked a lot, and their eyes seemed unfocused. Something was off. I saw that light again. Bright this time. It flickered through the trees like it wanted me to come closer. My gut told me something wasn't right. Suddenly, one of my friends mentioned a figure in the woods. I asked what they meant, but they shrugged it off. I saw fear in their eyes. That's when I stood up. I had to look, but nobody followed me. I walked towards the light, my heart racing even faster. The whispers grew louder, wrapping around me. I finally reached where I thought the light was. Was it really there? I couldn't see clearly. As I was about to call out, I heard my name. I turned back. My friends were gone, just like that. Panic set in. Where were they? Just then I heard a soft voice. Mark? It sent shivers down my spine. I knew then something was wrong. I couldn't see my friends. The laughter had vanished. The woods felt alive. They were watching me. I felt cold. I stumbled backward. I called out for them, but no one answered. Just the echoes of my own voice in the silence. Then I realized, as the whispers grew louder, that I was no longer alone in the dark. The whispers transformed into soft laughter, faint but unmistakable. I felt a chill sweep through the air, and I had to swallow hard to keep my panic at bay. I took a deep breath and forced my legs to move. Every part of me screamed to turn back, but curiosity pulled me forward. I stumbled deeper into the darkness, every whisper tugging at my mind. The trees loomed overhead, casting strange shadows that danced like twisted figures. I ducked under branches and pushed through thickets, following the laughter until it echoed around me, bouncing off the trunks like it was alive. It felt as if the forest itself had taken on a life of its own, the very air thick with something unnameable. Then, out of the gloom, I discerned a shape, a flickering glow barely visible through the leaves. It was like a lantern, but there was something wrong about it. It pulsed and shimmered oddly. My heart raced again. I took a step closer, driven by a mix of fear and the desperate hope of finding my friends. I called out again, "Guys, is that you?" My voice faded into the night. The only response was the unsettling laughter that seemed to belong to no one. I hesitated, my mind racing. Something was very wrong. I wanted to turn back, but my feet felt glued to the ground. Then I caught a glimpse of something else. Movement. Just beyond the light, figures darted in and out of my view, shapes that didn't seem to have any clear form. I squinted, trying to make sense of it all, but what I saw made my skin crawl. Was it my imagination? An illusion made by the light? Suddenly the laughter stopped. A heavy silence fell over the forest, pressing in on me like a weight. My heart thumped loudly in my chest. That's when I saw it, a pair of eyes reflecting the light. They were small, glinting like sharp stars in the darkness. The eyes watched me, and a rush of terror gripped my throat. I felt that they belonged to something more than a mere creature. They were the eyes of the forest itself, and they knew I was there. Almost instinctively, I turned to run. I bolted back through the trees, branches scratching against my arms and face. I could hear my own breath panting loudly, echoing in the still air. I stumbled, almost falling, but I kept pushing forward. I had to find the safety of my camp. I couldn't stay in this cursed woods. But as I sprinted, panic rose within me again. How could I escape when my friends were missing? I needed them. I needed to get back. Was it even possible they were watching too? Were they lost like I was? I felt the darkness close in around me, pulsating and alive, mocking my every move. Just as I burst through the last of the trees, I skidded to a stop. My heart sank. The campsite was just as I had left it, but my friends were nowhere to be seen. The fire was without embers, the shadows deeper than before. I called for them again, but my voice fell flat. There was no sign of them. Then I heard a rustling behind me. I turned, heart pounding. A figure stood in the tree line, tall and shadowy. It stepped forward, revealing itself. My breath caught in my throat. That's when I realized where I was, the very place I had wanted to escape. "Mark?" It whispered softly, but it wasn't my friend's voice. I stumbled back, my mind racing. The shadowy figure took another step closer, the dim light of the moon casting strange angles across its features. It looked like a person but wasn't quite right. The outline shimmered as if caught in a heat wave, warping the air around it. "Mark," I said again, though doubt clung to the word. The voice was a sickly sweet echo of familiarity, but I felt no comfort. The figure didn't respond. Tension tightened in my gut, and instinct told me to escape. I turned to bolt further into the darkness, but something stopped me. A crackle of sticks underfoot as more figures emerged from the forest's edge. They materialized like ghosts, their faces obscured, but I could sense their eyes, piercing and judgmental. "Help!" I shouted, not even sure who I was calling out to anymore. Surely someone had to be in that crowd of shadows. But the figures remained silent, hovering just out of reach, their motionless forms waiting. Just then, one of them raised an arm, and a flicker of light appeared in its hand. I squinted. It was the same eerie glow I had seen before, swirling and changing like smoke. What was happening? Why couldn't I move? A few of them started to step forward, and panic gripped me once more, tightening its grip as the glowing figure engulfed the air with light. I took a step back, my heart slamming against my chest. "Stay back," I warned, voice cracking. The intruders halted, their movements becoming eerily synchronized, almost as if they were part of a dance choreographed by the dark itself. Then the laughter returned, a cacophony of voices echoing through the trees, sinister and mocking. It sounded like they were enjoying my terror. I spun around, desperate for a way out. But behind me the forest twisted into paths I didn't recognize, branches and vines cloaking the way. As fear threatened to consume me, a surge of adrenaline propelled me forward. I dashed toward the thicket on my left, not caring where it led. I had to escape, had to break free from whatever nightmare was unfolding. But just as quickly as I gained speed, I heard one of the figures call out my name again, softly yet powerfully. "Come back, you're not alone." It was no longer the voice of Mark. No, it was something, or someone, else. A chill ran down my spine. Suddenly the ground shifted beneath me. I stumbled as a root snagged my foot, sending me sprawling. I hit the earth hard, and with it came a disorienting silence. The laughter faded, the figures vanished, and darkness enveloped me, thick as smoke. I lay there, breathless and trembling, listening intently. I strained to hear anything beyond the rustle of leaves. Then, in the quiet, an unexpected direction appeared. A familiar sound reached my ears, someone calling my name. "Emily?" I shot up, anxiety mixing with hope. "Is that you?" I shouted back, but the voice faded into the night, leaving me alone again. I glanced around, the shadows looming menacingly. I had to find my friends now, but where to start? That's when I saw it. a flicker of light farther down the path, beckoning me like a cruel mirage. I hesitated, heart racing. What if it was a trap? What if the figures were still out there, waiting? But the alternative was clear. I was utterly lost. With no choice left, I took a deep breath and made my way toward the light, hoping it would lead me to answers, or maybe an even deeper nightmare. The light grew brighter as I approached, illuminating the path ahead. I stepped carefully, my instincts on high alert. The familiar sounds of the forest felt foreign now, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of a bird, all wrapped in an unsettling stillness. As I neared the source of the light, I saw it was a small lantern resting atop a moss-covered stump. It flickered gently, casting soft shadows around. Relief washed over me briefly, a sign of life. But then, an uneasy feeling knotted in my stomach. Who had left it here? I reached for the lantern, my fingers brushing against the cool metal. It felt solid, reassuring. But as I lifted it, a gust of wind rustled through the trees, snuffing out the flame. Darkness swallowed the forest again, deeper this time. I froze, heart pounding in my chest. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely breaking through the suffocating silence. No response came, just the sound of the wind whispering through the branches. I fumbled with the lantern, trying to reignite it. My hands trembled, and for a moment I felt like I was back in that dark clearing, surrounded by the faceless figures. But before I could panic, the flames sparked back to life, their glow cutting through the blackness. I breathed a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. The light illuminated a figure standing just outside the circle. I jolted back, nearly dropping the lantern. This one was different. It wasn't distorted like the others. Instead, it looked almost human. A woman in a flowing dress that seemed to blend with the shadows. Her face was hidden beneath a cowl, but I could feel her gaze piercing through the darkness. "Who are you?" I stammered, backing away. "What do you want?" "You've been searching for someone." Her voice was surprisingly clear, yet it echoed as if coming from far away. There was no malice, just an unsettling calm. "Mark!" I shouted. "Where is he? What did you do to him?" The woman's head tilted slightly, as if pondering my words. "He is lost like you, but you have the key. You must remember." I stood there confused and angry. "Remember what? Just tell me where he is." She pointed toward the darkness beyond the lantern's reach. "Follow the path of echoes. They will lead you to the truth." I glanced at the flickering light, and then back at her. What truth? What echoes? Without waiting for an answer, she stepped back into the shadows, the night swallowing her. I called out, but my voice echoed back, taunting me. The forest had returned to its oppressive silence, leaving my heartbeat as the only sound. I looked in the direction she indicated. Unsure, I hesitated. Then I remembered the laughter, the figures, the feeling of dread wrapping around me like a fog. I couldn't stay here. Clutching the lantern tightly, I stepped cautiously forward, drawn by the promise of answers. With every step, the shadows seemed to shift closer, the air thickening. As I moved deeper into the dark, whispers began to swirl around me, faint but growing louder. Each step felt like I was crossing a threshold, the world around me shifting, reality blending into something far more terrifying. Then the shadows shifted again, and I felt a chill wash over me. Someone was behind me. I turned quickly, but the lantern's light only revealed the twisting trees. I took a deep breath, determination pushing me forward. Whatever lay ahead was waiting for me, and I needed to know what it was before it was too late. The whispers grew louder as I pressed on, swirling like a wind around me, teasing with fragments of words I could barely make out. Shapes flickered in my periphery, but every time I turned to look, there was nothing but trees. It felt like the forest was alive, watching, waiting. I moved cautiously, heart racing. My eyes darted from shadow to shadow, looking for some sign of danger, or even a hint of Mark. The tension hung heavy in the air. Following the woman's words, I searched for the path of echoes. Suddenly the lantern flickered again, dimming. I cursed under my breath and shook it gently. willing the light to stay strong. That's when I saw it. A glint in the darkness, just ahead. I approached cautiously, breath catching in my throat. As I drew closer, I realized it was an old rusted key resting on the forest floor, half buried in the leaves. It looked ancient, lined with strange carvings that made my skin prickle. I knelt and picked it up, its cold metal sending a jolt through my fingers. "What are you?" I whispered to the key. It felt significant, but I couldn't understand why. Before I could ponder it any longer, a shrill laugh echoed through the trees. I jumped, the key slipping from my grasp and hitting the ground with a dull thud. My heart hammered in my chest. I turned, searching for the source, but the forest remained silent, as if holding its breath. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "This isn't funny." My voice came out stronger than I felt. Another laugh, closer this time. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was toying with me. Panic gripped me. I scrambled to retrieve the key, my fingers itching to cling onto it. Holding it tightly, I listened, the echoes swirling around me. But they were no longer whispers. They morphed into a cacophony of voices, urgent, pleading, familiar. "Help me?" My breath hitched. I recognized that voice. Mark. It was faint but clear enough to ignite hope and dread within me. "Mark, where are you?" I shouted, desperation seeping into my voice. The key felt warm in my palm, and I wondered if it was part of the answer. Then everything shifted again. The ground beneath me rumbled and the trees swayed violently. An unnatural wind whipped through the clearing, making the shadows twist and turn in chaos. Caught off guard, I stumbled, searching for something, anything, to hold on to. That's when I saw her again. The woman in the cowl. She stood a few paces away, her face still hidden, but the fabric of her dress billowed like smoke. "You must decide," she said, her voice slicing through the chaos. "What will you sacrifice to find him?" Before I could respond, the ground erupted beneath me, and a deep chasm opened up, tendrils of darkness reaching for me. I lost my footing, teetering at the edge. "No!" I screamed, scrambling to back away, heart pounding in my ears. The laughter returned, echoing from the depths below. If I fell in, would I lose everything? In that moment I realized I had to choose. I had to confront whatever was waiting for me, or risk losing Mark forever. The key in my hand felt heavy, its implications clear. I took a deep breath, stepped back from the edge, and made my choice. I would find him. With resolve coursing through me, I turned toward the woman, ready to face whatever awaited. But as I did, she was gone, leaving only the swirling dark and the whispers that had now transformed into a haunting chorus. "Where are you, Mark?" I murmured, heart racing. I was about to take another step when a sudden blinding light flashed through the trees. I squinted, heart racing, unable to comprehend what was happening. And then, everything faded to black. I woke with a start, the darkness pressing against my skin like a weight. My head throbbed and I blinked to clear my vision. The forest was quiet now, the chaos faded. I was curled on the ground, the key still clutched tightly in my hand. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to sit up. Around me, the landscape was different. No longer the familiar trees, but rather a twisted version of the forest. The bark of the trees was darker, almost black, and their branches curled like gnarled fingers. The air was thick with moisture, and a heavy mist rolled along the ground, obscuring my view. "Mark?" I called, but my voice felt weak, lost in the stillness. I rose to my feet, swaying slightly before finding my balance. The key in my hand pulsed with warmth, its carvings glowing faintly in the dimness. Something was pulling me forward, as if the whispers from before had transformed into a single, strong call. I followed instinctively, the echoes of Mark's voice spurring me on. As I moved cautiously, the mist began to swirl, revealing shapes that danced just out of reach. I could almost hear laughter, taunting, familiar. What was happening? I pressed onward, determined to find the source of the sound. The trees closed in around me, the shadows growing thicker. Then, a flash of movement caught my eye. I turned quickly, my heart leaping. A figure stood in the distance, half hidden by the fog. My breath caught. Was it Mark? I wanted to believe it, but a small part of me hesitated. "Mark!" I shouted, taking a few tentative steps toward the figure. "Is that you?" The figure turned and my stomach dropped. It was not him. It was a girl with wild hair and wide, unblinking eyes. "You should leave," she said in a sing-song voice. "It's not safe here." "Where's Mark?" I demanded, fear creeping up my spine. "He's somewhere in this forest. I can feel him." The girl tilted her head, a slow grin spreading across her face. "Can you feel him? Or can you just hear him?" Her words sent a chill through me. "What do you mean?" She took a step closer, her eyes glinting like shards of glass. "If you listen too closely, it could be the end." Before I could respond, she laughed again, a sound that echoed through the trees before fading into silence. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was part of the danger weaving through the woods. "Get back!" I shouted, holding the key out like a shield, even though I doubted it could protect me. But instead of retreating, the girl lunged forward with surprising speed, her laughter ringing out once more. I stumbled back, unsure of what to do. I quickly turned, heart racing, and ran, weaving through the thick mist. The laughter chased me, reverberating off the trees, turning into a cacophony of mocking voices. I had to find Mark, but now I questioned if I was ready for whatever awaited me. The whispers returned, growing louder, all of them demanding my attention. "Help! Me!" echoed out again, and I couldn't stop myself from calling out, "Just hold on! I'm coming!" But the fear gnawed at me. What would I sacrifice to keep my promise? As I stumbled into an open area, gasping for breath, the ground trembled beneath me once more, the key in my palm growing warmer, almost burning. That was when I saw it. A door carved of ancient wood standing alone in the clearing. It had no walls, just the door itself, surrounded by shadows. I felt the pull again, but as I stepped toward it, ready to grasp the handle, a screeching shriek sliced through the air, echoing all around me. I froze. Something was coming, something that didn't want me to reach that door. I had to decide quickly. Would I confront what hunted me, or turn back and lose Mark forever? I stood frozen, the key clutched tightly in my fist. The shriek faded, but the tension lingered, wrapping around my throat like a noose. I couldn't shake the urge to look around, to see what was out there. Every shadow seemed alive, every rustle too loud. Then I saw it. Emerging from the mist, a dark figure slithered between the trees. It was tall and thin, elongated limbs dragging like a marionette with tangled strings. I couldn't see its face, but I felt its gaze drilling into me. Panic surged through me, and I took a step back. The door. I needed to reach that door. The distant echoes of Mark's voice called to me again, clearer now, pleading. It gave me strength. I turned to the door, heart pounding. But as I charged forward, a feeling of dread washed over me. The girl's warning echoed in my mind. If you listen too closely, it could be the end. I hesitated, doubt creeping in. What if the door was a trap? What if I ran right into something worse? The figure was closer now, moving with unnatural grace through the trees. It paused, and something shifted in the air, like a predator toying with its prey. Then the ground rumbled again. I stumbled, barely just regaining my balance as hot, damp air hit me like a wall. The trees rustled ominously, their twisted branches threatening to reach for me. Something was happening, and I was caught right in the middle. I spun back to face the doorway. In that moment of indecision, I realized I had no time to doubt. I had to try. With urgency, I dashed towards it. Each step felt heavy, the air thickening, almost pulling me away like a strong tide. The key thrummed in my palm, urging me on. Just as I reached for the handle, a chilling laugh pierced through the fog. The girl's laugh. "You really think you can escape?" The mist thickened around me, swirling like a storm. I gripped the key tighter, grounding myself, but her voice found its way inside my mind. "You can't save him. He's already lost." A panic rose inside me, threatening to drown me whole. I grabbed the door handle, yanking it hard, ready to burst through. but just as I swung it open, a shriek cut through the chaos again. This one was different, higher, more frantic. I peered inside, expecting another threat, but the inside of the door was empty. Just dark, unlit space. In that moment, a shiver of realization ran down my spine. The real danger was not what lay behind the door, but what lurked right outside it. Suddenly the girl appeared beside me, her hand reaching for the key. "Let me help you," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. I jerked back, not wanting to touch her, but the key felt like it was alive, urging me toward her, and then panic surged again. Without thinking, I slammed the door shut, trying to break the hold she had on me. The laughter stopped, replaced by silence. I took a shaky step back, unsure of what I had just done. That was when I looked up. The figure was gone, but a new sound filled the air. Whispers. Hundreds of voices mixed together, spiraling out of control. I had abandoned the door, but I had also torn away my last chance. Now, I was caught in the middle of something much larger, much darker. "Help. Me." The voice was stronger now, unmistakably Mark's. Hope surged within me despite the encroaching dread. I had to find him. But in that moment of clarity, I knew one truth. I was running out of time. The ground shook again, but this time it felt different. I had to move. I took a deep breath and stepped back into the mist, determined to follow the sound that had guided me before. What waited ahead was unknown, but I had already chosen. I owed it to him to see it through. I pushed forward, each step feeling like I was wading through molasses. The whispers thickened around me, mingling with my racing thoughts. Mark's voice remained my anchor, a lifeline in this chaotic sea of sound. I focused on it, committed to the path ahead. The trees loomed like silent giants, their branches scratching the sky. I glanced back, half expecting the dark figure to emerge again, but the mist swallowed everything behind me. I had just enough time to question whether I'd made the right choice when something cracked like a twig beneath my feet. I stopped, heart hammering. My pulse quickened, adrenaline racing through me. The noise came again, a rustle, followed by a soft thud. I turned sharply. Was it just an animal, or something worse? "No, no," I whispered to myself. Fearing the worst, I inched forward. The sound was closer now, a sauntering shuffle seeming to dance around the trees. Panic clawed at my chest. I had to keep moving. I couldn't stop. "Help! Me!" Mark's voice called again, clearer this time, almost right beside me. It gave me a boost. I pushed on, my breath quickening. I had to reach him. Whatever was lurking, whatever had made that sound, I couldn't let it distract me. Then I stumbled upon a small clearing. It was oddly bright, as if the fog parted just for a moment, but my momentary relief turned into dread. In the center of the clearing lay a small, tattered backpack. My pulse raced. Was it Mark's? I had to check. I darted over, heart in my throat as I unzipped it. Inside, there were a few personal items, a water bottle, a sweater that smelled of him, and finally, a flashlight. I grabbed it, hoping to find some kind of clue or solace in this chaos. But just as I flicked it on, a horrifying thought struck me. What if he had left this behind because he had no choice? I glanced around the clearing, then quickly scanned the trees. They felt alive, watchful. I pointed the flashlight into the dark shadows, praying to catch a glimpse of him. "Mark!" I called out, panic threading through my voice. And then I heard it. A low growl resonating deep in my bones. I froze. My breath caught in my throat as shadows shifted just out of sight. I realized in that instant I wasn't alone anymore. Whatever had made the noise was no longer just an echo. It was very real. I felt the weight of something sinister drawing near, and for a moment, everything went still. My heart thudded as the shadows coalesced into a dark mass. I backed away slowly, trying to keep the flashlight steady. That's when I saw it. Two glowing eyes peered back at me from the trees. They were unnaturally bright, fixated on me. My body tensed, instinct screaming to run. But I was caught. I had to stay and confront whatever this was. Suddenly the growl escalated, vibrating through the air, sending a chill along my spine. I could feel my pulse in my ears. There was no more time for hesitation. I had to act. With a swift decision, I turned and bolted back into the thick mist, Mark's voice igniting my fear. But just as I dashed past the clearing, a heavy presence bore down on me. Something chased me. I could hear it crashing through the underbrush, gaining ground. The fog engulfed me once again, and all I could do was run. The ground shifted beneath my feet as I sprinted, roots and rocks snarling at my ankles. I didn't dare look back. I could hear the thing behind me, its growl morphing into a chilling snarl. Panic surged as I pushed my legs harder, propelled by sheer terror. Every glance around only deepened my fear. The flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows that seemed to come alive. I fought with the beam, desperately trying to keep it steady. "Mark, where are you?" My voice cracked, swallowed quickly by the mist. Out of nowhere, branches snagged at my clothes, tearing at me as I barreled through. I was tearing through the forest like a bullet, but felt like I was moving in slow motion. The sounds followed, crashing steps, snapping twigs, and that infernal growl. Then I saw it, a narrow path cutting through the trees. Without thinking, I veered onto it, hoping it led somewhere safe. The further I ran, the more the fog clung to me like a careless reminder of my surroundings. It wrapped me in a cold hug, creeping into my lungs. I slowed down, heart pounding loudly in my ears. It was a mistake to stop. Just then, I heard rustling to my right. I turned the light slowly, praying it would not be what I feared. My breath hitched. In the shadows, something moved. I took a step back, but its eyes flickered into view. A familiar glow, not predatory but distressed. My heart raced even faster. "Mark!" I shouted, pointing the light toward it. The shadows shifted, and a figure stumbled forward, arms outstretched. "Help me!" It was definitely him, but the closer he got, the more I realized something was off. His clothes were torn, and there were scratches lining his arms. He looked like he'd been through hell. "Mark, what happened?" I rushed forward, shoving the flashlight into his hands. "We need to get out of here, now!" He glanced over his shoulder, fear etched in his features. "It's not safe," he gasped, breathless. "We can't—" Before he could finish, the growl erupted again, vibrating through the ground. My instincts screamed for me to gear up for a fight or flight. "What do you mean it's not safe? What's chasing you?" He paused, swallowing hard. "I don't know. I saw something. It watched me. It took the others, and now it's hunting me." His eyes darted, scanning the darkness. We had to make a choice. Stand and face whatever it was, or run blindly into the woods. "We can't stay here." I grabbed his arm, yanking him toward the path I had just taken. But as we turned, the snapping of branches erupted from the nearby forest. Something was coming. I could sense it, heavy and purposeful. "Run!" I shouted again, and we took off together, dodging low-hanging branches and roots that threatened to trip us. The growls grew louder. They weren't just sounds. They felt like a war cry, a curse. Whatever hunted us was close, and panic set in anew. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being stalked, the shadow always just out of reach. As we raced forward, the ground beneath us changed. It became less solid, more mushy, swallowing our feet with every step. "We need to find higher ground," I urged. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a flicker of movement. Someone was in front of us, silhouetted against the mist. Another figure. It looked just as frantic, arms flailing and eyes wide in terror. But before I could make sense of it, the ground groaned underfoot. The earth shifted violently, and I saw Mark's face twist into confusion. The next thing I knew, the world dropped away. The last thing I heard was the unforgiving echo of growls as everything went dark. I came to with a start, confusion swirling through my mind like the tendrils of mist that enveloped me. My body lay sprawled on damp earth, heavy but unharmed. Blinking away the remnants of darkness, I pushed up onto my elbows and scanned the area around me. I was alone, disoriented, and afraid. The woods were eerily quiet now. No growls, no whispers, just the gentle rustling of leaves in the faint breeze. As I stood on shaky legs, the flashlight lay at my side, still illuminating a path through the fog. I fumbled for it, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me like a stone. "Mark," I called out, my voice cracking. Anxiety clutched my chest. Had my frantic escape carried me away from him? But my voice fell into silence, swallowed by the darkness. Taking a deep breath, I gathered my resolve. I turned where I thought we had been headed before everything went wrong. I had to find him. Could he still be lost within the forest, or worse? Had he fallen victim to whatever dark force haunted this cursed land? Panic and desperation fueled my movement. As I pushed onward, I caught a faint glimpse of something familiar, a flicker of that eerie, beckoning light. Unease gripped me, but I had no choice. I had to follow. That light had led me this far through all the madness. I stumbled into a dense thicket, and as I approached, it danced like a will-o'-the-wisp, enticing me closer while I fought to hold on to my sense of self. "Mark," I whispered, fearing that shouting would send whatever was watching back into the shadows. The light pulsed, and I felt warmth flood through me. "I'm here." As I stepped closer, I saw the lantern resting on an ancient stump, but I hesitated. This time, the shadowy figures from before skulked just outside the ring of illuminated space. Their presence felt palpable, wrong, yet I sensed a strange tug pulling me toward the lantern. Then the laughter returned, now mingled with Mark's voice, soft and urgent. "Help me." Fear washed over me. I had lost him before. I wouldn't do so again. I grasped the lantern and lifted it high, its light drawing back the edges of the darkness. "Stay close," I shouted into the void, certain that I could confront whatever lurked. As I stepped further into the clearing, I could hear the whispers crescendo, a symphony of both familiar and foreign voices. A chill swept through the air, and with it, the dark figures emerged clearer and closer, their forms brimming with eerie familiarity. One stepped forward, sporting the contours of Mark in its shadowy features, a distorted reflection of him. I stumbled back, a scream lodged in my throat. "Not you!" I choked as the figure grinned. A reflection of Mark's lost face turned monstrous. His laughing eyes, once full of life, now mocked me. The laughter echoed around, blending with the pleading calls of my friend. Just then, from the depths of the gloom, I heard a different sound, a roar that rumbled through my chest, shaking loose the remnants of my sanity. I felt a sudden surge of defiance. Whatever this was, this mockery of my friend, I wouldn't bow to it. "Mark!" I shouted, forcing my voice to cut through the chaos. "I will find you, I promise." The anguish in my tone rang through the clearing, and I felt the power behind it give me strength. With each word, I pushed the lantern closer toward the figures, hoping to dispel the illusion. And in that moment, the shadows writhed. The false Mark shrieked, twisting away as the light struck it, the monstrous figure dissipating like smoke on the wind. My breath caught as I turned, knowing this wasn't over yet. I dashed further into the clearing, each step resonating with courage. I had to confront whatever bound him here. I held the lantern tightly, focused. Behind me, the whispers twisted into a chaos of urgent pleas, but I couldn't turn back. "Show me the way," I declared into the dark. Ahead, I saw something gleaming, a door carved in the heart of a towering tree, framed by a storm of uproar. With determination, I marched toward it, the voices swirling into discord around me. "Let me pass," I called out, knowing I had already faced chaos head-on. The key in my pocket felt warm. I fished it out and plunged it into the door's lock. An anxious beat thrummed in the air as I turned the key. The hinges groaned, and the door swung open, revealing an abyss of swirling fog. I caught sight of Mark's silhouette deep within. "Mark!" I shouted, my heart racing with hope and dread. "Emily," he echoed back, but his voice wavered, far from reassurance. I could feel the energy shift, as if the forest itself held its breath. I didn't think twice. I lunged through the threshold into the darkness. Nothingness swallowed me whole, and I stumbled, clinging to the lantern for light. "Mark, I'm coming." The whispering voices pinpricked the air again, layering over each other, menacing and painful. But I refused to give in. With every ounce of will, I pushed through the shadows, confidently breaking apart the tendrils that threatened to pull me in. As the fog began to clear, I saw Mark, his outline emerging through the haze, alive but fading. Desperation clawed at my throat. "Mark, hold on!" I cried, reaching for him. His hand stretched toward me, but as our fingers nearly touched, tendrils of shadow lashed out, trying to ensnare him. "No!" I shouted. "Not today!" I swung the lantern, illuminating our surroundings in a surge of blinding light. The shadows shivered, recoiling in fear as light enveloped us both. Mark's expression shifted from desperation to disbelief as he broke through the dark grasp. In that moment of brightness we connected, fingers intertwining, igniting a surge of energy that broke the chaos. And just like that, the forest writhed. A deafening roar erupted and the tendrils snapped and fell away, revealing a path ahead. I clung to Mark, and we dashed down it together, past the treacherous shadows and into the brighter clearing that opened before us. Suddenly, everything fell quiet. The air felt lighter, the once ominous trees standing peacefully. I looked up at Mark. We made it. Relief flooded my heart. But as I turned back, I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest still held secrets, layers of darkness remaining unspoken. Instinctively, I glanced back over my shoulder at the lingering shadows that ebbed at the edge of the clearing. My heart skipped a beat. In the distance, a flicker of light pulsed, almost inviting, taunting. Part of me felt drawn back to investigate, while the other part wanted to turn my back and run forever. But before I could decide, Mark squeezed my hand, grounding me to this reality. "Whatever it was, we're free now," he said, though I could see doubt in his eyes. As we stepped back into the world we'd come from, the forest behind us began to shift again, growing dimmer as ghostly silhouettes faded into memory. It dawned on me then that we weren't quite out of its grasp. Even if we escaped, the encounter would change how we viewed everything. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if those shadows still linger, waiting and watching, if Mark and I truly left them behind. But mostly, I try not to think about it, letting the memory of what we encountered settle into the depth of the unknown. Some questions may never be answered, and some truths are meant to cloud the horizon, forever lingering just beyond comprehension.